nobody's filling a void until you have like a champion. You can't get there without being a champion.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
LeBron was there in day one.
No.
In year one,
No, he
LeBron
wasn't.
was there.
No, he
Oh,
wasn't.
man, you are sick.
No, he wasn't.
You are sick to your
No, he
stomach.
wasn't.
LeBron was there in
No, he
year
wasn't.
one.
Was he a great player? Yes, but until
He
won,
had the league. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. I'm not saying he was the best player in the NBA. I'm saying he was the superstar that the league that put the league on his back. You know, the viewership, the numbers were like there in year one for him. His first game was televised on ESPN and it broke records. His first game.
I get that. That's not,
before we ever seen him dribble.
That's not really carrying the league though for me.
But that's what this is. They're saying that the numbers are down. Nobody cares about the NBA. Nobody's watching. What I'm saying is people wanted to see LeBron in year one.
You cannot legislate and rule make your way into people caring. You can't. It has to start with the players in the game giving a about that stuff. And that they're taking pride in not missing games and not doing this stuff. And we're so far gone from that. I don't know how it comes back. I don't. Because you see it at every level. Like high school kids are cool sitting out an AAU game to rest. Like, what the is that? Like, I mean, I'm 53 years old. I get up every day. The one thing I want to do is play every day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. I'm pissed if I don't get to play basketball. And that's a mentality. And when you bring that back, and then the other thing that goes in connection with this is what the All-Star game has become. Because again, that's something that
well, we're getting to that.
Yeah, but it's all connected because like you have this thing about guys sitting out not wanting to play ostensibly, and then one of your focal points of the season, the All-Star game, you put a lot of energy and advertising and commercialism into it, and it's just a miserable game of people not caring.
Yeah.
And there is a very real perception that the NBA players don't give about much.
Mm.
And you can't be successful that way.
No, for sure, 100%. Now, another reason or complaint that NBA fans have is way too many three-pointers now in this era. Right? Now, the numbers are staggering. You're at the out of all the shots taken, you're at about 38% of shots in the NBA right now are three-pointers taken. That's like an incredible leap over the years past. All right. And the ring leader, the problem I think that the NBA has with that particular issue, if the fans don't like that style of play, is that the best team in the league is the ring leader, Boston Celtics. I mean, they damn near lap the field in three-pointer attempts. Yeah. Okay. And if they're going to be the premier team that's winning, how can you fix or change that? Because right. that's their formula, and we all know in every sport. Well, I mean, I know NFL and NBA. I mean, football and basketball in particular. Once one team's win, the rest of the league becomes copycat. They have to chase the guy at the top.
Yeah, you look at this. Whether you're in the Eastern Conference or in the Western Conference, you're like, going into the year, it's like, well, how do we catch or beat Boston? Like, what type of roster do we need to beat that team in a playoff series? And that's where it begins. Yeah. Like you got to beat the top team. You got to have an answer for that. And years and years ago when it was like the Lakers with Shaq, like you had to have a way to deal with that to compete.
Teams were putting like 3 and 4, 5 centers on the team just for fouls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
and it's completely shifted away from that. Now, mathematically, it makes sense. Shooting the threes is a higher value shot. And when you can get a team spread and isolated and helping and having to recover to the three-point line, those become high-quality, good shots. They're desirable to get. There's a tactical reality that's maybe the most efficient way to play modern basketball.
It's evolution.
Yeah, it is evolution. But, I mean, I can see a bit of monotony to that. Now, I love a possession like that, like, you have some sort of action, swing, get that open three. But when I'm personally, I hate like the Luka threes and the Harden threes, where it's 25 dribbles, feint, step back three. it's just not appealing to me. And so like, I don't like watching Dallas play basketball for the most part. Other teams where there's more of a notion of like, really swinging it around, finding the open guy, and riding with that. I'll watch that way more frequently. But I don't. I think it's. I don't. I think that that's an overcomable point in comparison to the other stuff we talked about.
Now, not to I know that I'm a Luka guy, whatever, but in this particular article I was reading, because what the fans are saying is that they love the NBA for the guys' athleticism. It's the most athletic sport, and you got MJ, Dr. J, all these guys over the course of LeBron in his prime, and that's why the numbers were peaked the way they are. But the guys now, like Anthony Edwards, like he's averaging about 11 attempts a game from the 3-point line. They think that's nuts. Wembanyama, he's almost at 10 a game. They think that's like nuts for a guy 7'7" to be shooting 10 threes a game.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. Even LeBron shoots a ton of them now.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about that? Is there, because now about the threes, here are some theories on how to stop that, right, or how to fix that. Number one, the most ludicrous idea that I've seen literally 1,000 places, they're saying to take away the corner three. There's some really smart guys who are talking about this. Take away the corner three and just have like
you're playing half court at or side court at the JCC.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
That seems like so radical.
What is the rationale? Like, what are they explaining that to?
So what they're saying is it shrinks the court to a degree to where you get more action in the paint. Okay, and then if you're going to take a three, of course you have the middle and the hashes, and everything else has to be mid range and in the paint. You're forcing guys to do that because so many of the non-shooters, like shooters that wouldn't have been shooters in whatever 10 years ago in the yesteryears, they're stuck in the corners taking whatever 6-7 threes a game.
Yeah.
So if you take those guys, would be relegated back to the paint and mid-range, like KG mid-range,
but
and stuff like that.
Because you still ultimately want spacing, and even if you're not,
you won't have it, and you won't have that level of spacing anymore.
You will, because you could still stand in that spot. It's just not going to be worth 3 points.
Well, that's the idea of it.
But
those guys would take less of those shots if they're not counted as three. That's the idea behind it.
I think it would be like when you play at the JCC and it fucks the game up because you still, instead of trying to get high quality shots on this full band of shooting area, now you're concentrating the band in this limited area, which just creates more congestion in this spot on the floor that's not the paint. You're still going to be trying to cycle through and find open people here. Because that's the highest value shot. The value of the shot doesn't change because you take part of those shots away. You still want the high value shot up top because that's your three.
Here goes another one. Set a number of threes each team could take a game.
Can't do that. Can't do. That's idiotic. Because of this, like I'm my two favorite sports are basketball and soccer, and they're what I call fluid movement games. And you cannot artificially restrict the fluid movement game and have it still be appealing. The beauty of the sport is you have the fluid movement, the spacing, and the dynamics to create opportunities to score from that. But if you're going to restrict it, like, okay, well, let's say in the middle of the third quarter, you've exhausted your 3-point attempts. So now you've got to just bludgeon the ball down low for, a quarter and a half. That's horrible.
Yeah. Now, Kobe's saying that it has a lot to do with multiple streaming platforms. That's a good point. You have a lot of a lot of different streaming platforms, but even though that's a good point, as far as if you're singling out, like ESPN numbers are down, but they are counting everything. Now it's hard to I imagine it's hard to count the illegal streaming numbers.
Well, I was gonna say I'm not well versed in that, but like from the cut the cord crew and the people that essentially rely on illegal streaming, if that data is not into this, I think that there is a buffer to these numbers because there is a lot of people that's their main force. And I don't know when they're giving us these numbers, are they able to calculate those people one way or the other or not? But you could have essentially like a silent massive fans.
The
that
problem
are streaming
the problem with that though also is baseball numbers are up since they made changes. Like they saw a significant uptick.
Yeah.
And NFL never changes.
Yeah.
So like you can't just say the legal streamers only watch NBA.
Yeah, no, that's
And
probably
then
fair.
soccer numbers are
Yeah.
what they are.
Yeah.
All right, now my thing is two things I think that could fix this, because I'm with you. I think all of those things just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think there's just really smart guys just coming up with BS. There's two things here that's the issue. One, I do think they should go down on the number of games.
For sure.
I think going down from 82 games fixes a lot of things. I think it fixes the load management, even game strategy, and this and that. I think it would help with injuries. I think it'd help a lot with a lot of different things. And also people wanting to play. You know what I mean? Like you need to play if it's important. If the game 22, like, you know what I mean? Like
Well, that's where you go with football. I mean,
Yeah.
You're not going to go to 17 games in the NBA.
Right.
But football, the games are like each game is so significant.
Matters.
You know, and so you can't. You know,
Yeah.
you know, if Pat Mahomes can hobble out there, he's playing this week.
he's dinged up and he needs to, because
But
Buffalo
that's
is right
reality.
there.
Yeah, that's reality.
All right. Now that's one thing. The second thing is not really a resolution. It's really just an observation. They don't have they have a lot of good players in the NBA. There's just not that next generational star. I know we wanted it to be Wemby. It's not. We at least right now. And there's and all of these guys are good players. Anthony Edwards, my guy Luka, the guy in Orlando, whoever you like is a good player. Jason Tatum. They're not that next guy that can carry a league. There's not two guys that have a, whatever, the Larry Magic thing that can. None of these guys can carry a league for various different reasons, and that also hurts. There's not one guy that people just want to tune into. People now, they're liking teams. They like to see Boston. They want to see they like this. They like to see the way teams play, and that's just not as attractive as that one bona fide superstar. That's whether I want to see him lose or I want to see him win.
Yeah. No. A couple things. I agree with that point. I think that, but nobody's filling a void until you have like a champion. You can't get there without being a champion.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
LeBron was there in day one.
No.
In year one,
No, he
LeBron
wasn't.
was there.
No, he
Oh
wasn't.
man, you are sick.
No, he wasn't.
You are sick to your
No, he
stomach.
wasn't.
LeBron was there in
No, he
year
wasn't.
one.
Was he a great player? Yes, but until
He
won,
had the league, and I want to make sure I'm saying this right. I'm not saying he was the best player in the NBA. I'm saying he was the superstar that the league that put the league on his back. The viewership, the numbers were like there in year one for him. His first game was televised on ESPN and it broke records. His first game.
I get that. That's not,
Before we
that's-
ever seen him dribble.
That's not really carrying the league though for me.
But that's what this is. They're saying that the numbers are down. Nobody cares about the NBA. Nobody's watching. What I'm saying is people wanted to see LeBron in year one. And that's LeBron. That's like a fucking.
It's like a meteorite. I get that,
Yeah.
and that's part of the thing. But for anybody to step in and fill that void, I think you've got to get to championship level play.
I disagree with that. Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, because I think Jordan got there before that. LeBron got there before that. Their argument could be made that it took, but Magic got there so early, to where you know what I mean. Now there are instances
because like Magic and Bird started the modern era, as it were.
Yeah.
And they got right to the playoffs, right to the finals, and battled each other a couple times.
Yeah.
That set the standard. As they were going out, Michael came in. Michael came in when they were still the draw. 87, 88, you have, Celtics and Lakers are still the title draw.
But Michael was a draw as well.
No, I'm not disputing that he was not a draw. I get that. But and again, when we talk about ratings, you had a couple things pulling in the right direction.
My argument is these guys are not draws.
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but what you had is you had this Lakers-Celtic dynamic that had created a rejuvenation of league interest. Then you had the individual stardom of Michael Jordan. And then you had the transition. As the Lakers and Bird and Magic all kind of faded out, They faded out to Mike. Michael's first title was against Magic Johnson, going downhill. And then you have like a torch being passed. These narratives matter because people are sort of drawn to things as they become alert. Now, when you had LeBron, you're right. There was a buildup of LeBron. We heard about him like nationally, when he's a sophomore, I think, in high school. And there's a buildup and an anticipation to that. And again, he comes in on the tail end of the Lakers three-peat dynasty, and Kobe was still, an epic star at that point.
Yes.
And then you have multiple things going on, and LeBron is a huge part of that. And then as Kobe winds down, he becomes the perennial champion. The LeBron goes to the Heat, wins titles, and so forth. And then he's in the finals for like the next decade. And that's the story. Now, how do we replace that? That's what we're struggling to do. Because he was in the finals, in the championship setting for so long, and simultaneously being the best player on the planet. Other people don't measure up to that. There's a void right now that we're dealing with, and nobody's ready to step into that.
Yeah.
And there's no narrative good enough to that.
Yeah. You got to have both. And you got to have you really got it's three things cuz I think Wemby had the build up, but of course the winning is not there, but also and the third thing is what I think a lot of guys are just missing that these other guys had is the draw. Like nobody is appointment viewing. Like, when ESPN when they do their commercials and it's like, Giannis versus Shea, and in the Cup final, you have to watch this. I'm like, if I'm free, I'll watch it. And Giannis is a good player. Shea's a good player, but
Yeah. No, I get
you know what I
it.
mean? I think a ton of other people who watch the NBA
they feel like that. That's real. And who wants to support Jason Tatum? Like, most of the time.
Why is he such a focal point for hatred?
I don't know,
but
anybody. I feel the same way.
I get your point. They need to be consistently good. They need to consistently make finals and championships to start to make that narrative national. Like if Ant was able to be in the championship multiple times, we'd really fall in love with him. But he's inconsistent with it. But I think there has to be a lot said that there has to be a person that can carry the narrative and can be like a story, and also have this because LeBron was a villain in the NBA for a little bit.
Well, it was you go through the cycle. All great athletes, you come as the phenomenon that everyone just wants to see. Then at some point you became the villain that people don't want to see lose.
Tom Brady,
and then
Mahomes,
you're kind of the end part of your career is usually like kind of a late appreciation phase. Oh man, we're gonna finally miss this guy.
Yeah,
like that's the classic sports hero.
But like
arc.
Jokic is an example of someone that did have that success, but he's not catching any eyes because his personality is so boring.
Yeah,
but he was that successful.
I agree.
Couldn't even get there though.
I agree with you because there's a lot of stuff that comes together. Like, and you can go down the guys that are contending guys, and there's a reason. People almost unnaturally dislike Jason Tatum. I mean, I get he's not perfect, but like a lot of people really don't like him. Anthony Edwards appeared to be on the rise. They had the run last year, but right now the reality is the team has regressed, and they don't feel like a team that's going to go on another run right now. Luka is individually boring to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And when you compare, like statistically, you could put his numbers up with LeBron probably offensively and it probably look great. But he doesn't play the game in the same athletic, captivating way that he does. He doesn't do anything defensively that you're like, wow. And so
I think you need that athletic capability to have that draw.
To conjure up.
I don't see anybody that has had
Wemby is looked at and will always be looked at as essentially sort of a freak. He's not relatable. You can't go to the park and pretend to be Wemby. It's just not possible. You're not that. Like, nobody's that, And there's a relatability.
Although Shaq was a draw.
He was a draw because he was a huge personality as well. I mean, a dominant player. And there's another thing. There is, and this kind of goes to connected to athleticism, but there is something about domination that resonates with people. And Shaq, literally battering people in just a deep physical sense. Like, that draws people. People want to see
That's
that
another
in some
thing,
way.
though. All of these guys that we're talking about dominated.
No, like physical
I understand.
domination.
Shaq is understand, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about like dominated the league. Like was always
Who
top
are you
3
talking
MVP.
about right
LeBron, Michael,
Yeah,
Magic,
the true greats.
Larry.
The true, yes.
I'm talking about the guys who carried the
Yeah,
league.
for sure.
Anybody you put in that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's another piece to it. None of these guys are have any level of dominance over a stretch of period of time. Like, yeah, they may do it in the playoff series. Yeah, Giannis did it in the finals that one time.
Yeah.
And Jokic had a good run. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like none of these guys are consistent. Jokic does have that to a degrry. I'll back up a little bit.
But he's boring.
But he's really boring.
He's boring.
He's really boring.
Like you again, you're not like you.
And he doesn't care.
He gives you an attitude. He doesn't care at all.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.